The modules had been gathered from their respective orbits, and the first vessel of its kind prepped for the transfer out of Kerbin's sphere of influence. Spirits were high, and the Kerbals' hopes were even higher. All this meant, of course, was that they had further to fall. And so, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 2 of The Last Project. In the first episode, we went ahead and we collected all these different modules from all these different stations that had previously been constructed in orbit. And we put them together to create this. A mighty, nay, a beautiful interplanetary vessel, designed with the explicit purpose of going to Eve. And look, there is Eve, just in the perfect phase angle, the perfect amount of degrees away from us, ahead of... Oh, hang on. Oh, it's supposed to be behind us. Okay, so before we actually transfer out to Eve, we need to time warp for a few years. Yeah, this is one of the problems that I had in picking Eve. I picked Eve, as I think I established in the previous episode, because someone said I should. When in reality, I should really pick the one that's the closest launch window. Eve was not the closest, but luckily in the next episode we'll be going out to Jewel, or preparing for Jewel or something, and that one is quite close, so we don't have to do much time warping. And then we can set about maneuver node and blah blah blah, interplanetary transfer burns. All the standard stuff that you know about. Before I really begin the whole ramble that is what I attempt to call commentary, I would first like to clarify exactly why it doesn't sound so good today. I have a cold. I have a really bad cold, and it's so painful to talk. So if this commentary today is a bit stumbly, and I trip up over my words quite a lot, and I go off to sneeze occasionally, or sniff, or cough, I will try and minimize it in order to make it sound as good as possible. In my mind, I was weighing up, before I started recording, I was weighing up the advantages and disadvantages of actually recording today. It was basically, do I record this and actually have a video out for Friday, the date it's supposed to be out for? Or do I put it off and hope that I get better? I decided that I would go ahead and record, because I would prefer to make sure that this video comes out on the day it's supposed to, which is Friday. The Last Project is supposed to be uploaded every Friday, so you have something to look forward to. As I said a while ago, yes, HOCgaming actually finally has a schedule. We do have a schedule, as in Last Project every Friday. So with any luck, this will be uploaded Friday, unless I cannot continue to talk for the sufficient required amount of time. But you know, we will see. So, what have I missed? What have I not been talking about that I really should have been? We burnt out, and our burn out into interplanetary space took a very, very long time. I set up the node and it was beautiful as a perfect maneuver node, and then I started burning too late, which meant that my ejection angle was wrong, which meant that I ended up dropping my periapsis all the way down to almost halfway between Eve's orbit and Moho's orbit. Far, far too low, too much of a waste of energy. And if we take a look at our fuel supply, which we may be able to see soon enough, or perhaps in a few minutes' time, we will see that the fuel is pretty low. It's pretty dire, in fact. I was hoping to be able to bring back the transfer stage, and in fact, we probably will need to bring back transfer stages in the future. From, say, Joule, especially when we use the more efficient nuclear engines. Luckily, this is just the skipper, so it isn't particularly efficient, and we don't want to be using it all that much. So if we don't have enough fuel to bring back this particular engine, that's not too big of a deal. But it's just a shame that I ended up using so much fuel because I was such an idiot, and I burned too late and my ejection angle was all wrong, and I didn't think about it and didn't pay attention. That was the first mistake. The first mistake of the big 3 in this video that I will elaborate on when the time comes. For now, we'll do our standard interplanetary stuff. We did our burnout and we got an encounter, at least. Although I did make this mistake and I burned too much fuel, we did get an encounter. So now we can burn south to change our inclination and actually bring our periapsis closer and closer to Eve, so that we actually end up near it as opposed to just vaguely in the same thousand million kilometers of space. And so we can time up down and we can get to the planet and we can do all this kind of nice thing. So what are we actually going to do? You may be wondering, what is this? What are we actually doing in this series? All I've said is that we're going to be colonizing celestial bodies, and that's true. The idea is that we'll land a few Kerbals, a minimum of 4 Kerbals on each celestial body, and from then, if we have a unique module for that planet, we will just simply play around with the unique module a bit. Our unique module for Eve is a boat, so I'm going to try and land on the coast, and then hopefully we'll be able to, drive the boat off of the coast and put it in the water, put some Kerbals on top of it and bounce around a little, and things will go hopefully very well, most likely probably very wrong. But that's all in the future. For now, we can just enjoy the beautiful sight of Eve looming out of space, out of the inky blackness, as we time up down and we prepare for our first atmospheric re-entry. I say re-entry, really it's aerobraking, that's the one, yes brain, aerobraking. In that we are going to use the air resistance that we are subject to as we pass through the atmosphere of Eve in order to slow us down. When we have such a big, long, wobbly kind of craft, it's a bit dangerous to go too low because you do end up bouncing around and flopping quite a bit. That is not a euphemism. But, to be honest, in Kerbal Space Program's physics engine, this isn't too much of a problem, because it's just, hey, it's just physics, it's just re-entry. There's no heat modelled yet in KSP. There probably won't be as well. I wonder, is that a feature that they will put in? I wonder. I somehow don't think it will be. But regardless, if they did put it in, look at this. This would almost certainly be dead by now. Everyone would be dead. There's no heat shielding on these. We've just got big, fat modules burning up in the atmosphere. And hopefully, the amount we actually burn up in the atmosphere equates to a certain loss of velocity, which will capture us. It will allow Eve to capture us in its orbit, within its sphere of influence, so that we don't go shooting back out into interplanetary space, and we don't end up paying our respects to Moho or something. I mean, hey, our periapsis is low enough, right? We could end up going to Moho, if we did miss this encounter. But regardless, we bring it down, and as you can see now, the needle raises back up, and we pass the midway point of our aerobraking, and so we begin to rise once again with the beautiful gem that is this glowing module, and the escape trajectory is just bending its way around. It is feeling the pull of gravity until eventually it will snap into an ovular. Ovular, is that the right word? It's not a circular. I was going to say a circular orbit, but no. It's very much an elliptical orbit. Because our apoapsis is still going to be really far out, despite the fact that we've done this aerobraking. And the reason for this is that I was overly cautious. If you search on Google for KSP aerobraking calculator, you'll find this very useful webpage. And if you go into that webpage and you enter the digits it requires, your current orbital height, your current orbital periapsis, and your desired apoapsis after aerobraking, it will calculate the periapsis you need to have within the atmosphere of the body in question in order to actually lose that amount of velocity to keep you within the sphere of influence and take you to that apoapsis. And so I did this, and I took the numbers from the screen, put them into the calculator, and they gave me a periapsis of 56 kilometers. And then I put my periapsis as more like 60 kilometers. Why? Because I was worried. In this series, I have the unofficial rule that I will not be quick saving or quick loading. Well, actually, that's not quite true. I will be quick saving, I just won't be quick loading. And that's the rule. So I'm being overly cautious with everything. And this is perhaps mistake number 2 of the 3 that I established at the start of this video. I was too cautious. And as a result, we end up aerobraking again, and we go through the atmosphere, and I decide to start burning, and I just burn all the fuel. Because, hey, I've already established I probably won't have enough to take the transfer module back to Kerbin. It's not necessary for me to do so. So, why waste my time when I can do a controlled orbit a controlled orbital adjustment rather than relying on this air resistance. I'll tell you why not. Because it takes ages. I end up aerobraking 3 times. And in the process I end up emptying this entire tank. So what we do is we detach, and we get a little bit away from our ship, currently cruising at the apoapsis. Excuse me. And I detach this empty tank, because lugging this thing around, although in the real world it might help because it would be, you know, extra surface area to feel air resistance against for our aerobraking, in KSP it is merely a dead weight once it has run out of fuel. So we can drop it off in Eve orbit, and then go ahead and reattach the rest of our ship. So we've basically just chopped out this middle bit to save a bit of mass, and hopefully get more bang for our buck with our fuel, our remaining fuel, because we really don't have that much left. And in fact that Eve, or that little piece we've cut out of our ship there, will remain orbiting Eve. It's not within the atmosphere, its periapsis is certainly above it, so it will remain in that elliptical orbit for quite a while, for many years, many decades, many centuries to come, unless I do something about it. And then we go in for our third and final, I believe, aerobrake. My memory is a bit hazy. My memory was gone for the longest time. But I think I remember now. The foxes. Sorry, just remembering my voice acting lines for a game that I did. I did some voice acting. You may remember a while ago I was talking about, oh, I want to be a voice actor. Yeah, little Harvey wants to be a voice actor when he grows up. And I actually did some voice acting. I got in contact with this company, Rat King Entertainment, and they published a game recently called Try, of Friendship and Madness, under the publisher Rising Star Games, and I was their only voice actor. Actually, no, that's not quite true. They did. The 2 developers of Rat King Entertainment also added in a few lines of the character that you play. But I was the monk. Yes, I was the narrator. Oh, I am the narrator. In fact, this is present tense, not was, I am. And you can go play this game now. It's available on Steam. Try. For a low price of whatever it is in your region. I think it's like 12 British pounds currently. 12 Great British pounds. Something to that effect. And you can hear my terrible voice acting. It's a really good game, just a shame they couldn't find a better voice actor. Anyway, should we go ahead? Should we return? Should we find out and reveal what was my third and final mistake? For some reason, I decided to deorbit back then. You can see this burn that we've been doing for the past few minutes. This is our deorbit burn. This is no longer simply orbital maneuvering, this is trying to deorbit. What was going through my head when I chose this spot to deorbit? Well, I know what was going through my head. What was going through my head was, ooh, I want to be on the coast, because I've got a boat. And I've realised at this point that my boat... Actually, it does have wheels. It does have wheels. Well, regardless, the boat wants to be on the coast so that it doesn't have to drive very far to get to the sea, right? So I'm like, yeah, coast, yeah, swimming, ocean, bikinis, and all this jazz. And I also coupled this desire, this longing to be on the coast, in order to show off my amazing unique module, with the knowledge that Eve has a rather thick atmosphere. So, you know, we can aerobrake rather late, and the thick atmosphere will slow us down in no time. No time at all. Yeah, good thinking, Harvey, really, yeah, well done. Well done! You call yourself a professional Kerbal space programmer. Professional Kerbal space programmer. Oh, you fool. I deorbited too late. And as you can see, inexorably, my craft continues along its orbital trajectory, not even burning up in the atmosphere yet. There's no sign of atmospheric resistance. We're still practically in vacuum, and yet we are pretty much just over the last few scraps of land that exist on the coast of this ginormous, rather hungry-looking planet. All the fuels run out. I'm now desperately trying to use RCS propellant. Ooh, yes, monopropellant, the most powerful of all the engines in the Kerbal Space Program. Yeah, no. We're a bit screwed, frankly. But it's alright, we can detach, we can... Oh, now the flames come, yeah, nice work, Eve, finally, we get some air resistance. And then we can deploy our parachutes, and we can begin the journey down into Eve's atmosphere, because we can land on the we can land in the sea. I mean, we don't have to land on the coast. Sure, our landers are only built for landing on land, because I didn't really consider the fact that I would be so stupid as to land in the ocean. But hey, it's alright, they can adapt. Adaptability is what KSP is all about, maybe. So we have parachutes and they can deploy. And I talked about 3 mistakes. It was ejection angle, and being too cautious, and then missing land. Maybe I should add on a 4th mistake. And in fact, I think it's a bit of an underestimate to call this a mistake, really. It should be a blunder. It should be something much more emotive. It should be evidence of Harvey's incompetence. I should get that emblazoned and make it my new YouTube channel banner. Evidence of Harvey's incompetence, because guess what? For the 4th and final mistake I made, for some reason, I undocked it. I undocked the boat. 6 kilometers up, I undocked the boat. Why, you ask? I don't know. I just felt like it. I've got absolutely no idea what was going through my head at that point. And so the boat falls away at this ridiculous speed because it has less air resistance than we do because we have so many more parachutes. And it starts falling. And then in my mind I think, oh no. What if it gets more than 2.4 kilometers away? It'll disappear. I've got to raise the altitude at which the parachutes on the boat will deploy in order to make sure it doesn't fall more than 2.4 kilometers away from the craft so that both things remain within physics range load range and won't be deleted as debris. So I raise the altitude to 1,000 meters, to 1 kilometer above sea level, and that's all well and good until I forget. Or until I can't, there's simply too many of them. I can't do the same for these ones on the ship. So we reach 1 kilometer for our boat, all the parachutes deploy, and bang! The parachutes on the rest of the modules don't. Because they were set for 500 meters, the default. And we didn't fall so far that the parachutes opening on the boat would allow the boat to drift down another 500 meters before the rest of the modules came down crashing on top of it. That's not a mistake. That's a colossal blunder. That's such a stupid thing I've ever done. And I killed 4 Kerbals. There are now 8 Kerbals remaining. 4 of them died. The boat's fine. It's all well and good, but the boat isn't life. I took 100 Kerbals. I saved 100 Kerbals from imminent death on the planet Kerbin. And then in the first mission of the last project, the 4 of them died. Good lord. That's not the end of it. That is not the end of it, I can guarantee you. Oh no, there's plenty more to come where that came from. 4 Kerbals dead already. 96 Kerbals are alive in the last project. Keep that tally. And so the respective modules continue sailing down towards the very, very hungry looking ocean. And the boat is somewhere above us, having deployed way too early, now floating down leisurely at its own pace. Oh, there it is. Catching up with the parachutes from the now destroyed habitation module. And the rover, being useless because we're on an ocean, the rover we brought along for kicks, apparently, is just sitting on the boat there. And here we go! Water landing! What could possibly go wrong? Oh, I've got no idea. I've got no clue, me. There's the boat now, passing us, seeing as it has now got less parachutes than we do. And it falls down. And the rover is detached. The rover can land on the boat, that'll be all fine. We have powered landing with our rover, so we can make sure it doesn't fall prey to the ocean. It can have the safe landing on the boat. You know, don't worry about the habitation modules or anything, Harvey. I'm sure they'll be fine. So the rover comes down with a bit of powered landing, and actually, you know what? No, that boat looks a bit bouncy. We'll put it nice and gently in the water besides it. Because this has powered landing. Powered landing, to make sure it lands nice and softly in the ocean. What doesn't have powered land? Oh, yeah. Bang. 92 Kerbals remaining. Shall we have a bet? How long will it take for Harvey to kill off all the Kerbals that he brought to orbit? 100 Kerbals, how long How long until they're all dead on the surface of Eve? 12 Kerbals went out to Eve, and 4 Kerbals remain. I wonder how I can kill them before this video ends. Taka. Jodan Janayo. That's terrible Japanese for you. So 4 Kerbals remain, and these are the lucky... I say lucky survivors. These are the rather unlucky survivors. Stranded in the middle of Eve's ocean. Oh man. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. If you enjoyed the video, ladies and gentlemen, please show me you enjoyed the video by liking this video. The clue is in the name like. If you like the video, you like the video. It's very cool. And if you are not already subscribed, you can subscribe to the channel for weekly Last Project videos where I document my unfailing incompetence at the game Kerbal Space Program. Oh good, oh good. Well, at least we can put the 4 remaining Kerbals in the boat and they can have a nice time. They can probably play I Spy or something. I Spy with my little eye, something beginning with O. Ocean. 'Cause there's not much else to see, really. Thanks for watching. Hopefully my commentary has been okay with my sore throat, and we should be back next week with more videos. Again, live streams of this recording are happening every weekday, do remember that. Links to the live streams in the description. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all next time.